Welcome to Dr. Mary Travel Best's Independent Travel Guide, an episode for women like you who need a little extra support traveling the world, one woman at a time. This podcast is sponsored by Sun Marketing, doing advertising and marketing in San Diego since 1993. I've been traveling independently, and I'll soon be releasing a second guidebook on the independent travel steps. So please share this podcast with your parents, loved ones, and future travelers so you can make their trips the very best, like travel best. In this episode, the FAQ is, how can I lighten my suitcase? The destination is the USS Midway Museum. Today's mistake, forgetting my passport. And today's travel advice, journal on your phone. The FAQ, how can I lighten my suitcase? It's just so heavy and I wish it wasn't. And the answer is, today's luggage choices are so diverse that you can get around with a lighter bag and less stuff. Start out by determining the purpose of your trip. Are you on a solo adventure or a guided tour? Are you combining two outings into one trip? There are ways to lighten the load. Consider that you may not need to bring a laptop, only a tablet or phone. That will save you time and stress. If you can pick one color clothing and keep the outfits to a minimum, you can pack fewer clothes and focus on accessories. If you carry a book, reconsider how you can read from your device instead of the paper version. And what weighs a lot should be removed. If you need to, ship your heavier items to your destination and pick them up there. And now for today's destination, the USS Midway Museum. The USS Midway Museum is a San Diego-based former naval ship. It's an aircraft carrier that you can walk on in person, and it's more than 75 years old. The feel, the look, the smell from 1945 is still familiar with those who created history. My first visits here were in the early years of it being open to the public, and later on as a parent on school field trips. I've enjoyed it as part of groups from local events also. To get to the Midway Museum, you take the nearby public transit downtown San Diego or drive on Navy Pier and park there easily. Walk around the neighborhood before and after you explore the ship. Give yourself plenty of time to enjoy and soak in the local flavors. Why would you do that? Well, it's in an excellent location. It's prime real estate in downtown San Diego. And for those on the East Coast, it's similar to New York's USS Intrepid. Now, Henry Schrick is a Midway Museum docent who's a friend of mine. He really enjoys his volunteer work and collegial atmosphere of this role. He gave me a personal tour. So if you go there, ask for Henry. He told me that the docents' wives are now happy that their husbands are getting back out of the house and onto the ship after being released from their duties during COVID. So they are happy to be back to greet you. The average age of the volunteer docents is 73. They're all very well versed in the history and the topics that relate to the museum. David Kuntz heads up the outreach for this museum, and I interviewed him about that role. He believes it's a unique experience that translates to all ages and cultures. He described the different travel associations that he's involved with, including the Association of Attractions, Local Tourism, Visit California, Cal Travel, Brand USA, US Travel Association. Wow, there's a lot. Midway Museum does outreach in Australia, New Zealand, Japan, China, and more. And they use sales and marketing as well as media missions to those countries. They have audio tours on the ship in 6 languages, including English, Japanese, Spanish, and Chinese. They advertise at the Mexico CBX border, Rodriguez Airport, local media programs, banners at airports, and through his former SeaWorld contacts. The Midway Museum gets people's attention. One example is that Lunar New Year travel from Asia traditionally grabs a lot of attention. Back in 2019, 30% of the 1.4 million guests were Chinese and those from China. It's been ranked as the 8th largest U.S. museum in attendance. What really impressed me was the very personal experience you can have from the self-guided tours with actual real-life stories from those who lived it. You'll also hear conversations from former aviators about launching from an aircraft carrier. They recently opened a cafe on board, so you can enjoy some refreshments while you visit. If you could pick the best day to see the USS Midway Museum, I'd go on a Tuesday or Wednesday, the less busy days. If you want to find out about safety, they have a very safe and trained force, including former aviators. They can help you while you're on the ship. Just look for the safety personnel in yellow hats. One caution, there is a lot of walking and stairs here, so wear comfortable shoes. And now for today's mistake, forgetting my passport. I forgot to bring my passport when I was going to Puerto Vallarta. Now, this was back in the 1990s. I flew from San Diego to Los Angeles, and there's a consulate office in the airport who was able to provide me with a visa for the trip. Normally, when I would go to Mexico, I went via the Tijuana border crossing, and no passport was required then. So this was a big oops. I made the trip and had a good time for a week. Don't forget your passport when you travel to any foreign country. Now for today's travel advice. Journal in your phone. Every phone has an app called Notes or something similar. This is a great place for you to write your daily thoughts, feelings, stats, or other things you want to capture and save. It's not a space hog. It's a good place to type your favorites and your bad trips too. You may read them again in a year or two, upload to a blog, or just keep them private. Capture the moment when you can and journal. Today, I want to bring meaning to your travel. Send me your travel tip. You can send it to my website, my Facebook page, our Facebook group, or Instagram. You can send to my Twitter, my blog, YouTube. Maybe you'll see your tips in Dr. Travel Best's Independent Travel Steps.
What's on your travel bucket list? Tell the doctor and her team of women who travel the world seeking the very best. Dr. Travel Best, that is.